The pandemic has changed a lot of things, a main one being our workplaces. A new global survey by Slack's Future Forum Pulse found that the remote versus office debate is over. Hybrid has now become the dominant model for knowledge workers, meaning those who work with data, analyze information, or think creatively. 58% of those surveyed across the world spend some time in the office and some at home.
So what is clear is people like flexibility.
Pri Shah, an associate professor at the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management, says she's not surprised that flexibility is becoming a priority for workers. The report found that the desire for flexibility is particularly strong among people of color, women, and moms. But with women and people of color spending the least amount of time in the office, the report says leaders must act swiftly to guard against inequity. For example, proximity bias.
In particular, white men are coming back or are able to come back as opposed to the women and the minorities in there. And what we know about social networks is that there is a proximity component, that if you are near people, then you're more likely to interact with them, you're more likely to trust them, be friends with them. But there's also a huge homophily component to how people form network ties to begin with. So homophily is basically birds of a feather flock together.
The report does not say whether employees are choosing to work remote or if their boss is making those decisions. Shah says that's important.
I think bosses, managers, organizations, they're making choices in terms of who do they see as core to that organization and core workers being asked to come back in, and who do they see as more peripheral and able to continue their jobs off-site. The same inequities that you see perpetuated in organizations might be perpetuated there and then might be amplified based on who gets to choose as well.
Shah says there are a few things people can do to level the playing field. For employers,
they need to do an inventory and think about, if they are asking certain roles and employees to come in versus not, are there systematic differences?
Also, checking in on employees to see how they're doing and making sure remote workers feel included, like setting up ground rules so those on the Zoom call have just as much space to speak as those in person. For employees, Shah says make sure your work is visible.
That might mean emailing people, connecting with them on Zoom, making sure they know what you're doing, asking them questions so they know that you're kind of keeping up on what you're doing.
Shah says employees should also check in with their boss or coworkers. What once was getting coffee or lunch may now be a catch-up over Zoom. Even so, remote and hybrid workers scored higher than those full-time in the office overall, on everything from work-life balance to a sense of belonging. Heidi Wigdahl, KARE 11 News.